What's up, everybody? Welcome to Full Mile. We're heading south on US 41. This is a commute, 10 a.m. You from California? Oh no, Ohio. I saw the red. I was like, what's up? Yeah, what's up? What's good? All right, just being friendly. Too friendly. Yo, so I saw the red and I automatically thought California. Ohio license plate looks like a California license plate. They gotta fix that. So we're in Fort Myers and we're gonna drive down into Naples. I just heard a song on the radio by an artist called Mooski. No idea who the crap Mooski is. But there's an artist from Louisville, Kentucky named 2K Baby. They totally ripped this guy's flow off. You can't do anything as far as being a unique artist. This is a radio station they have here called Fly 98.5. They're playing a song by an artist called Mooski. By the way, this is right here is Pine Manor. Let me take you out real quick to Pine Manor. This is like a real hood out here. Notice the Albanian flag. There's a lot of Albanians. That white van had an Albanian flag in the front. Lots of Albanians here. Oh, this isn't Pine Manor. This is a street right next to Pine Manor. Pine Manor is kind of like a hood. You can get a house here for $140,000, but the neighborhood's so bad that most people would just pass on it. But I've seen houses in here for like $140 near Pine Manor. It's a Latino hood. Usually empty in the daytime. Most of these people have a lot of rent to come up and very little income to pay it with, so they got to work many hours to have a place to sleep. But you can tell it's kind of hood just by, I don't know, you can just tell. And another thing that people, they don't get what a hood is. They struggle to know what a hood is. Like somebody from up north, they might see this big house right here. Oh, look at this new house. You know, it looks pretty. It's a beautiful house. New roof, brand new, big yard. But they fail to notice the telltale signs of a place being hood. And that's one thing. Like when I did the Montgomery video, a lot of people said, "Oh, Montgomery, it doesn't even look like the hood where the shooting thing happened." Shooting stuff, but also Stockholm. All right, where you know when I was driving in and all that was going on, that's the hood. Several people mentioned that place doesn't even look like the hood. I'm like, dude, that looks undistinguishably nothing like a hood. But I guess in other parts of the country, they fail to recognize what hood is. So I don't know. I guess it'd be a great video topic because you know what's like when I moved to Alabama, I didn't know what a hood in Alabama was. This is the entrance to Pine Manor. One of the entrances. I went in the wrong way. Next street over. So this is Pine Manor. But anyways, when I moved to Alabama, I didn't know what the hood in Alabama was because the hood in Alabama doesn't look like the hood in Florida. You know what I mean? So it took a while for me to pick it up, and now I'm like, oh, now I know where the hood is in Alabama. So now when I'm in Alabama, anywhere in Alabama, I can tell you if I'm in the hood or not because I've been there long enough to kind of see the telltale signs. Like right here, you got a shopping cart with clothes on it. That's indicative of homelessness. A shopping cart with clothes on it. I mean, that's anywhere. So these signs right here with we buy junk cars, that's a really bad sign. So, you know, bicycles outside here, you know, metal bars on the air conditioner. And actually, that's a small unit, so, yeah, you can tell here, see the water on the driveway. You could just, let me get, there's a lady outside doing her hair. Okay. Like, here's a telltale sign of ghetto in Southwest Florida. See the kid's bike outside? Somehow that's ghetto, don't ask me why. See the basketball hoop, you see the avocado tree, you see the barbecue, 2 barbecue grills, another bicycle outside. All that is just telltale hood stuff. You would never tell if you were from somewhere else that that's a bad thing. A kid's bike's not a bad thing, but if you have 2 bikes outside your house, it probably means you don't have a car. And the kid, obviously the kid doesn't have a car, but it's just hard to tell. You see there's litter here, especially beer cans right there outside by the road. Cars are kind of neglected and they're all work equipment. Every last one of those is work equipment. You know, so it's a very utilitarian thing. You got some more work equipment over here, so everything's kind of utilitarian. There's nothing kind of fancy. It's all utilitarian. So there's a lot of telltale signs for somebody that like is from Southwest Florida. See, this house on the right had 2 window shaker air conditioners. It means they don't have central air in the house. Those are all kind of like telltale signs of. See, there's garbage out and it's not garbage day. That means that people just put their garbage out whenever they feel like it. More trailers, more work trucks. It means these are working class people. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not, but it's definitely telltale signs of the hood, you know? I'm definitely not saying those are bad things in themselves, but there's just little details you pick up that would kind of indicate you're in a bad neighborhood. So somebody from somewhere else, they might just see every last one of these is a brick house and they automatically assume, oh, that they're good, well-built houses, and they are. But they were built in the 60s in Florida, or 80s, 70s. Most houses here are well-built in Florida because of hurricanes, so that's not something to gauge a neighborhood by in Florida, you know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to tell, if a neighborhood's bad if you're living somewhere else, but if you're from Florida, you can kind of tell. Like, there's the difference between somebody walking when they're on a walk and somebody who's walking because they're going to get their groceries, you know what I mean, because they don't have a car. Rents are pretty hefty here, but nonetheless, as you can see, they're building a brand new house. Like right here, that's $100,000 SUV right there, brand new. That's a $100,000 SUV, and that's a really nice house. So it's interesting how even neighborhoods like this are being gentrified, but nonetheless, you got all the telltale signs of the hood right here. Look how much garbage there is there. You got beer cans outside, beer bottles, beer cans, garbage, appliances outside, which means there's no utilities inside. Look at all the litter just dumped there. Those people just drink and leave their beer bottles and garbage on the floor. That's a bad thing anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you can just tell. All those beer bottles right there. So in the daytime, everybody in this neighborhood's got to get up and go work and make money. But so when the daytime, this neighborhood's pretty much a ghost town. At night, this thing's popping off. Everybody that works, this is the daytime population here is nothing. You come here at night and the cars are sticking out to the road. You know what I mean? That's how many people live in each one of these houses. That's another thing. You come here in the daytime and it looks like the population density here is normal. But you come here at night, you're like, wow, all these cars, yep. And then on top of that, you got all the bicycles, which means that's another person right there. A lot of people don't have cars. So here you got this we buy junk cars. There's 3 different we buy junk cars on an intersection. There's a lot of white people moving in this neighborhood. There's a lot of white people moving in here since my last time here. Could be. People just can't afford to live anywhere. Like, normally, white people would try. They're usually able to get more income. Not saying that's right, but they make more income and they're able to stay out in neighborhoods that suck. But it's starting to seem like white people are starting to move into these neighborhoods. Kind of interesting. Look at that cracked window, air conditioning units. Well, if you notice, a lot of these don't even have central. Look how much litter. Like, what the crap, yo. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, there's a lot of white people moving into here. That's odd. Lots of white people moving into here. They just can't afford it. They have to move into the hood too. It'd be funny if there's so many people coming to Florida that even the white people start getting dispersed. That's hilarious. And the white people are gonna have to be able to live in the hood nowadays. That's wild. I wouldn't live in this neighborhood. And I'm Cuban, man. This neighborhood was way too hot for me. Oh snap, you see the dog? That's not really a donk, but so yeah, somebody moving from another place, might see this neighborhood and think, oh, this looks nice and it's affordable. Let's buy here. But they don't really realize what life in this neighborhood's about. This is a hot neighborhood. mean, I used to come here at night. This has been a hot neighborhood. When I was a teenager, I think it was worse than it is now when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, there were like Brazilian gangs back in here. You know what I mean? Like real, you know, alleyway between these duplexes and those little alleyways, those little cuts between the buildings. There'd be some stuff going on back here. There's always that one person that lives here. Oh, it's not that bad. We've only had 3 drug raids this year. I hate these stupid flyers, man. These people that put up their nasty flyers. You know what I mean? We buy junk cars or cheap internet. I hate those things. Or we buy ghetto houses. Do you hate those things? I hate them. Can't stand them. But it's just interesting how when people start moving into places, you know, in vast numbers like this, sometimes they just kind of fail to notice how bad some of the neighborhoods they're moving into are. And those places, frankly, they change over time. You know, a place that's bad today may not be all that bad tomorrow. I'm gonna have to just take this turn lane here. A neighborhood can change. They definitely do. As more and more people start moving in. People are asking me about Valdosta, Georgia, on my videos. I don't like Valdosta, Georgia too much. Actually, I think it's like the most bland place out of all my travels. It's probably the most bland place I've been to so far. Just don't like that. Tifton, Valdosta, Georgia. Just bland places, man. I don't like it. And yeah, I've had 3 other people say the same thing on that video. I think several other people are like, yeah, it's boring and bland. Not sure why. It just doesn't seem like a very exciting place to be. Sometimes people just like Georgia. People moving to Georgia. How many people are considering moving to? I can think about like 3 people at least on my channel talking about they want to move to Valdosta, Georgia. And I'm sitting here like, what? How do you even come to that conclusion? Because Georgia's a popular state people are moving to, and Valdosta is probably one of the cheaper towns in that state, close to Florida. But there's no beaches in that part of Florida. I mean, it's just like, sometimes when people make their determinations on when they're going to move, they have very erroneous ideas. Like when I looked at Alabama, the first thing I thought was Dothan because it's close to Florida. And Dothan's one of the most miserable places in Alabama. It's not bad, but it's not like the best. It's not where where you want to be. But sometimes when people have a prejudice about a place, or the way they perceive a place, they just don't understand what it's, they don't see the whole picture. A lot of times when people move, they just don't see the whole picture. And I think with Southwest Florida, that happens a lot. In Georgia and Alabama as well. Like people are willing to move to Tennessee and Georgia because it sounds pretty. When you say Georgia, you might be thinking Blue Ridge Mountains or something. But that's not all of Georgia. That's like the northern tip of Georgia. You know what I mean? That's the glamorized Georgia that people think about. And when it comes to Florida, people think about Naples or Clearwater, these little beach towns, and then that's what they think about Florida. But the reality of it is far from that. Like people glamorize in their minds what it's going to be like to live somewhere, but then they leave out a lot of details. Well, when they look at Alabama, immediately they're looking at those cons right off the bat. Oh, Alabama's like this. Alabama's like that. They already have a list of preconceived notions about the place, the cons about a place, with absolutely no consideration to the pros. But when they look at other places like Florida, all they see is the positive stuff. And then that's why Florida is one of the most transient states there is. There's a lot of states that people move into, and and then they don't last 3 years. They eventually either burn it out, doesn't work for them, or they go back home. Florida's a very transient place. And some of those transient people make a lot of money in the process because they're willing to relocate for better opportunities, better jobs. Conmigo no, échate para allá. No, you're not supposed to block the intersection. I don't have to. Oh, we're good. I don't know. I think that sometimes people kind of glamorize things, don't look at the whole picture, you know? In a lot of places, that's why a lot of places like Nashville, like, I went to Nashville, I'm like, why the crap would you want to move here? It snows all the time. They just got snow there 3 days ago. 3 days ago, they just got snow. Another thing, like when you think about Alabama, a lot of people say, oh, there's a bunch of old trucks all over Alabama. And a bunch of like rednecks with big wheels and stuff. Yo, you got that here in Florida too. Even right here in Fort Myers and Naples. Now that I'm here, I'm paying more attention to it. There's a lot of like rednecks down here, which I had never really paid much attention to it. I had really not paid too much attention to it. Because all you think about are like the little fancy people in their convertibles. There's a lot of rednecks down here. A lot. Just, you know, probably comparable to Alabama. Maybe a little bit less. But like, that's not what you, when I lived down here, I didn't think that was always, like that aspect of Florida was always right there smack dab in my face. You know what I mean? Like, see this old Chevy truck, that's all you think about when you think about Alabama. And there's a lot of that in Alabama. But it's not something you would connect to Florida, especially Southwest Florida. But now that I'm here, I've seen a lot of old, I started paying attention. There's a lot of old trucks here, and there's a lot of jacked up trucks here too. So it's just like, through what lens are you looking through, and with what perspective are you looking at a place? Because there's a lot of different perspectives to look at. You know, there's a lot of different ways to look at a place. If you're coming from a place that's horrible, like some snowy, crappy city up north, then yeah, you might think this is paradise. But if you've lived down here and you've been through the struggle down here, you're not going to look at it. There's not a chance in the world you're going to look at it from that perspective. You're going to look at it from a perspective, like I just had somebody, and I hate to have to do this, but you know, different people live different experiences in life, and what somebody might experience in Fort Myers, like one person's Fort Myers experience could just be beautiful. Oh, good friends, good times. Another person's Fort Myers experience could be crappy people, being victimized, being exploited. So different people live different experiences, and unfortunately what determines that is not right. But that's the country we're living in, that's the town we're living in, and that's the way things are. I mean, and everyday people are more divided. That's why on this channel we don't talk about a few topics. And every day the divide's bigger. Like every day we're more and more drawn away from each other based on those social economical things that are just tearing apart at the fabric of people. And frankly, some people have just had enough. I've had enough. That's why I got out of this place and moved to Alabama, which supposedly was going to be worst, because Alabama has a law that very specifically, it's a very specific law, let me tell you. And I do feel when I'm in Alabama and this law is applied to me in a lot of circumstances, that I feel like it's wrong. And I have my documents. I'm actually a U.S. citizen. The Alabama immigration law requires that police have reasonable suspicion that a person's an immigrant unlawfully present in the United States. They can make a reasonable request to determine the person's legal status. That is a very, very to me, living in Alabama and being subjected to this law feels completely discriminatory. And I'm illegal. I'm a U.S. citizen. I don't have to prove. To me, I don't have to prove to you. Why do I have? I'm a U.S. citizen. Why do I have to prove to you that I'm a U.S. citizen? I am one. You don't do it to Americans. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel right. And I feel like living in Alabama, just being subjected to that law, makes me want to. You have no idea how it makes me feel. When I first moved to Alabama, they made it hard for me to get my license. They gave it to Katie without a problem. And I had to go back and find a bunch of papers that were in boxes. So I had to go back. You know, they asked me so much stuff to get my driver's license in Alabama. And I'm a U.S. citizen. Oh, my Social Security is not enough. My U.S. citizenship paper is not enough. What do you want for me? You want me to squat and cough for you too? You know? I didn't like that. I don't like the law. But at least in Alabama, it's a straightforward thing. Because here in Florida, it's not a straightforward thing. Here in Alabama and in Florida, it's more of it's more subtle. Well, you still have that divide. By no means think that you don't have that divide in Florida. It's the same thing. Florida, the difference is that in Florida, they let you live here. So Florida doesn't have the immigration law that Alabama does. Florida doesn't have an immigration law. But there's a bunch of rich people that need poor people they can exploit to keep up their gardens, to keep up their big houses, to clean their pool. Because some rich people, they don't want to pay another. They're not going to pay another rich white person to come cut their grass. In this heat and humidity down here, who's going to do it? So in order to keep all these places beautiful, look at all these gardens and flowers and crap. Somebody's got to do it. Who's going to do it? One, the rich people don't want to pay enough for it. And two, even if they did pay enough for it, ain't nobody going to do it. Because people don't want to do those jobs. There's definitely a divide here in Florida. In Alabama, you don't have that divide. In Alabama, everybody makes even. Everybody's a person in Alabama. Don't matter who you are, everybody in Alabama is a person. I've done great in Alabama, even though, to me, that immigration law, I don't like it. Because I'm a U.S. citizen. What the crap do you need to put me through all this crap? You know, if I'm opening a bank account, anything you do. There's 2 times when I felt that law and its effect on me, and it's downright, actually more, like 3 times. Like I can think of 3 times that law's been applied to me, and I have felt humiliated and just pretty much like this ain't right. You know, especially being a U.S. citizen. Because at this point, I'm like you. I don't have to prove anything to you. I don't like the law. But now you don't have all the problems that illegal immigration brings to a place. It divides, it creates like immobility. Bro, I live in Alabama. Alabama's the worst rated state. Y'all know that, right? Technically, Alabama's the worst rated state in the country for employment, poverty, all that crap. Alabama, the state that I live in, is the worst rated for all that crap. However, being the worst rated state to live in, okay, immobility here in Florida, by far, there's nothing that poor, that miserable, and that, I don't even know what the right word to describe immobility is. Unappealing, wrong, poor, and it sucks because they're regular people, just like me, just like you. These people are no different than me and you. They're just in a really crappy predicament. They have crime in their neighborhoods, they got poverty, they have high rents, they have low incomes, they have everything that's negative they have, and everything that's good is absent. They're not putting an Applebee's in Immokalee. They're not putting a Publix in Immokalee. They're putting a Publix here in Fort Myers. You get what I'm saying? So they're communities that are probably marginalized is the word that I'm looking for. That's probably the word I'm looking for. Completely marginalized places. But with that marginalization is what some people think is equality. What some people think is the right thing. Because Florida doesn't have a law that says they can't be there. Yet, you know, that free-for-all has created that situation. Where back in Alabama, you don't have places that miserable. Even Selma, which is supposed to be the worst place in Alabama, you know, isn't that miserable, isn't that run down. Well, it is run down, but at least the incomes are $5,000 higher a year per capita. You know what I mean? Like, so the way I look at Alabama's got bad buildings. The buildings are the dilapidated and falling apart. But in Florida, it's like the people that are in bad shape. Not everybody, but a lot of the people are in bad shape. Alabama, the buildings are in bad shape. In Florida, some of the people are in bad shape. You know what I mean? But when I come here, you can see that divide very clearly. And what's crazy is that I feel that if I spend enough time in Alabama, I'll be able to improve so much economically that one day I could be on the nice side of this divide here in Florida. But if I stayed here, there's no crossing that line. So I don't know. It all has to do with the perspective that you look at things with. Some people's perspective, living behind these flower beds and behind that gated community, your perspective cannot relate to somebody who's got that window shaker. You know what I mean? That person's got that window rattler. You don't know what that's like. The leaky roof. You don't know what that's like. The cockroaches. You don't know what that's like. You know, when there's a hurricane and your neighborhood's the last place to get the power back on, you don't know what that's like. Because you went through a hurricane, you went up north for 2 weeks and went on vacation. The person that stayed here in a bad neighborhood, they spent 3 weeks without power. You don't know that. They might live on the other side of that wall. You might live on this side of that little fence, and they're on the other side of that. But when you talk about perspective, I feel that too many people here just don't understand what the other side's going through. And poor people can dream about being rich all day, but rich people can't imagine what their landscaper lives like, what their pool cleaning guy lives like. You know? And I've tried with these videos, a lot of you're making the marketing look bad, you're making the marketing, why you picking on the marketing? You go to a marketing to play in a freaking casino, to throw away your money. But you know how hard the people that live in Immokalee have to work out there in a tomato field to make $60 a day? You don't know that because you've never done it. So what right, if you're on this side, if you're behind that gated community, living a good life, what right do you have to tell me that lived in that trailer? What right do you have to tell me you're picking on marketing? No, I'm showing you how your lifestyle, paying people crappy wages so that you can live extravagantly, that's the result. But you don't see the farm worker. You ain't never been inside of their house in Immokalee. You know what you see is a freaking tomato next to your sushi. That's what you see. But it's essential to expose people, and I have a wide audience. I'm not mad at you, but I do need you to understand, and my videos aren't going to make a difference, but I do need you to try to understand that there is another perspective to life. Because if you're on this side, it's hard for you to relate to somebody who's on the other side of that spectrum, who's on the other side of that coin. It's very hard for you on this side to relate. And I want to bring to you a different perspective so you can understand other people, because you're indifferent to those people's necessities. That's today's video on Fort Myers. I hope you guys liked it.